So again, thanks to everyone for joining today. So for this Cider Business School session, we're going to go through a crash course in running your cidery as a business. Now, to be clear, as we go through this, we do, as Ekos, as a company, we are business management software. That's kind of an obvious. My intent to go through this is not to say, hey, the only way you can run your business is to use Ekos. My intent is to point out useful things that you can do with or without us as your software. So just some things that we see from the industry, from cider, but learnings that we get from wine and from beer as well, from the history of our company and what we've done previously. So hopefully you get some good information today, some takeaways that you're able to act on. That's the purpose for this. So hopefully you get something out of it. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So for the agenda, to get running, an intro of me, of us, of all the fun things, then going through best practices for inventory, production, sales, and accounting to be able to run your business. And then what you can do to take your cidery to the next level. So bringing all that information together and getting actionable insights to be able to tackle those. So first up, this is the awkward part of the presentation where there's a picture of me on the screen. So I'm double, I'm on the camera, I'm on the screen. But my name is Josh McKinney. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ekos. So we started Ekos about 7 years ago now. And when we originally started, we started in craft beer. So that was our intent, was to help craft breweries across the US manage their business from inventory, production, sales, and accounting. But at the end of the day, myself and Greg, my partner and our CTO, we are focused on helping craft makers run their business and be more efficient. Well, we started in beer, and we got so many questions and so many incoming leads and phone calls from cidery saying, hey, I need help with what you're doing. But for us, we've evolved the product over the years to be able to handle that. So at the end of the day, this information is meant to help you maybe get some insights on how to run your business with or without the software. At the end of the day, I and we as a company are just more passionate about helping small to medium-sized businesses thrive, as opposed to saying, hey, you must use our software to be able to do anything. So with that, kind of the value of our company and the way we see it is at the end of the day, we exist to, one, drive efficiencies, to reduce manual processes and duplicate entries. The next is end-to-end business management. So inventory, production, sales, and accounting, the main pillars as we see it as a business to be able to run efficiently and effectively. The next is managing growth. So it's getting insights into the information that you have for your company to be able to make decisions based on that. What products are selling really well? What's not selling really well? Maybe we should just stop making that. Maybe we should make more of this. What sales channels are going well? At the end of the day, that's what we want to help with. And then improving communication. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced either in your current company or other companies that you've worked with. The communication silo is very real. Being able to communicate back and forth with teams, see what's going on one side of the business to the other, either while you're actually in the facility or you're elsewhere. Communication is key. Communication is key for us as a business, as a software business. Communication is key for you as a cidery, and we want to help enable that. And I know that it's top of mind for a lot of you that are on this webinar as well. So first thing that we're going to go through is inventory. So some best practices for that. So a couple of items to go through here. One way to really keep a hold of your inventory is doing so digitally. So being able to manage everything from raw materials all the way to finished goods. So we all know there's a wide variety of tools to be able to use, right? You have your spreadsheets, you have your Google spreadsheets, you may have a OneNote document, a clipboard hanging up on the wall that's keeping track of everything. At the end of the day, we recommend no matter how you're keeping track of it, keep track of your inventory digitally so you're able to access it from anywhere. It doesn't feel good whenever you're at home and you're getting ready to go to bed at night and you're like, oh, wait a second, do we actually have enough juice or yeast or sugar or whatever else to be able to make that product? You don't want to drive back to the facility to be able to check that out. So if you have it digitally in the cloud and it's easily accessible, that's one great way to get a hold on your inventory. To the next point, spreadsheets are good for math, but as far as like keeping updated information in real time, it gets kind of messy, right? I know you all have these sheets because I have them personally too for various things of, you get into your spreadsheet and it's online, it's in a Google Drive, and you have so many rows and columns that to even be able to see anything, you're on your phone, you're zooming in, you're zooming out, and you're just all over the place. It's hard to get any insights out of those. So the recommendation is to stop relying on them, but the way that we view it is, as long as you have a process that's able to keep track of that information, then you're winning. Next, the key is making sure you know what ingredients and finished goods that you have on hand and where they're actually located within your facility. So this is a big thing, right? You need to know how many kegs, bottles, cans, whatever it may be that you have in your facility. If you have an offsite warehouse, if you have a tasting room that's offsite, something like that, it's always good to know what you have, where it's located, and how that's available to you. And then the next is knowing the value of your available inventory. So this is a big thing, right? We work with a lot of customers that's I'm making cider. I'm buying the things that I think I need. It may be the right amounts, it may not be the right amounts. But as far as actually knowing what the value of that is, I don't really know. So it's always good to know how much you have sitting on hand, and then also being able to measure that to see, do we have enough to get us through the next couple of batches? Are we going to have to order more? And trying to do that far in advance so that you're not having to waste time on expedited shipping or anything like that. So that goes into this next piece for forecasting and planning. So a big thing to understand is your capacity and be able to plan around that for your production schedule. So how big are your tanks, your totes, whatever it may be? Do you have enough juice available? Any other additives you may need? Do you have enough packaging materials to be able to plan out your production? And then the big thing too is getting your sales team the information and the inventory that they actually need to be able to make sales. So what's coming down the pipe? What do we expect to be finished this Friday, next Friday, a couple of weeks from now? And are we planning ahead in advance enough to be able to get that out in the market when we need it? So we want to make sure on the raw material side as well as the finished goods side that we're going to have what we need when we need it. This point over on the right on your screen, our customers that use our software on average can save $250 to $500 a month on expedited shipping charges, and that's just from planning. That's making sure that we have our batches planned out, that we know what's going to hit, when it's going to hit, when it's going to come out of inventory, so that we don't get to the day before and then we've got to run out somewhere. We have to do push that batch out another week or so until we can actually get the items in that we need. Some of you are thinking, I have my own vineyard, I know exactly, I have my own orchard, I know the exact amount of apples that I have to be able to make my product. Some of you have to order juice from other different places. So making sure that you're doing that planning in advance enough to where you're not having to pay extra to be able to get it is crucial. So we recommend setting up reorder points in advance so that as you start to get low on things and you go below a threshold, you know that, oh, I need to order this now, so I have it available for this batch. You all know you have your freight carriers or whoever else it may be, that some of them are really good and you can really depend on them, and some of them you're lucky if you get it within 2 weeks whenever they said they were going to get it to you. So making sure you set those reorder points in advance and not having to pay extra and getting it on time is crucial to being able to run the business and to forecast and plan out everything in advance. So next is production. So going through a couple of production pieces. One, batch planning. Like I was just talking about, making sure you're setting your schedule in advance to make sure your inventory, your people, and everything else are going to be available to be able to meet the goals that you have for the business. Keeping track of everything in one place definitely helps versus spreadsheets and having to pull information from this spreadsheet to this spreadsheet to this spreadsheet. Again, having processes in place is great. Being efficient with those can be a real time saver and a real benefit to the business in the long term. Now, one of the things that we like to point out is just saving the time saves your money. So this is one thing I always recommend to owners of really any business, but especially the businesses that we work with to make more efficient, is really sit down and think about what you do on your day-to-day task, job, your responsibilities. How much is your time worth? Put a dollar amount to it and kind of add up as you go through the day. What do I have to do today? What am I working on? How much time am I spending on that? That's equated to dollars. That tells you, am I spending too much time in this one part of the business that I should really not be focusing on, and I need to find out another solution for? If it's people management, if it's counting inventory on a regular basis, the different moving parts of the business, make sure that you're equating your time to the processes you have in place to see, is this really worth it or is it not worth it? The next thing is understanding your COGS. So a good way to do this for your cost of goods sold is to analyze your cost patterns on your existing batches that you're making, your existing products. So being able just to get insights into what your product costs to make is key. And I say that because you can see from the case study below that we did with one of our breweries, they pointed out that they went through and they analyzed their batches in our software, and we're able to point out, hey, we're paying way too much. In this case, I believe it was green, and they said, we're paying way too much for this. They went to their supplier, renegotiated the costs on that for what they were paying, and they were able to significantly increase the margins on the product that was specifically going towards. They were able to add dollars to the business just by understanding how much the actual cost of their product was. I'm sure for some of you, you're thinking, yeah, I know the cost it makes to make my cider. Why wouldn't I? A lot of people don't. There's a lot of things that can go into it too, right? There's the raw material cost to actually get in your juice, your apples, whatever it may be, any additives that you have, the packaging components. But then there's also, again, there's the time. There's the people time that are going into it to making the product. There's a lot of times there's shipping charges, like we were just talking about, for expedited shipping, for freight costs or anything else. Those things add into those raw materials. So my recommendation to you is, don't just keep track of the actual cost of the items that you're paying for. It's easy to look at the receipt and say, okay, this is what I paid for it. But there's other things that go into it. Again, it's the shipping, it's any storage fees, if you have to keep it off site somewhere for an extended period of time, if it has to stay in a cold storage somewhere. Make sure you're adding in all those different pieces so that that cost can then go into your product and you know exactly what it's costing you to make that. And then you can analyze what you're selling that product for to know, what's my actual margin on this? Am I making enough margin to make it worth it? Maybe there's a product that you make and frankly, it's a pain in the ass to do because you have a bunch of different processes that you have to do to actually get it to market. Are you actually getting a return on that? Are your margins high enough on it? Do you need to adjust, again, some of the relationships you have with your suppliers to see, can I get this an additional cost? Maybe you just need to change suppliers. There's a lot of things that go into this, but at the end of the day, understanding your cost of goods sold can really give you the insights that you need to help grow the business with just getting insights into it and not really having to change that much. And the last one is kind of the easy one, relatively speaking. Change the price to increase your margin or look for a new supplier. Changing price is hard, right? Especially once you go to market with a certain product. If you didn't fully understand your cost of goods before you sent that out in the market and you priced it, having to go back and readjust that price is a pain. You don't want to go back and then increase it, and then you have people on your Facebook page and everything else saying, oh, well, why'd you increase the price on this? Well, $2. You want to make sure you have that right whenever you send a new product into market, and making sure that, again, you're getting the margin that you need to be able to sustain the business. So next up is logging production. So this is a big thing, right? Making sure your batches are good from batch to batch, making sure you're measuring your gravity, your ABV, your temperature on your batches. And then another thing is keeping track of your maintenance records and your sanitation logs on your equipment to make sure that everything is clean and in working order. So when was the last time that you cleaned your vessels? When was the last time you cleaned your pipes? Do you have enough backup parts to be able to replace anything if you need it? And making sure that everything is actually sanitized. The worst thing that you can do is throw something into a tank that wasn't properly cleaned and the whole batch is ruined and you got to dump that. So making sure that you're staying top on all these day-to-day processes that frankly a lot of us just kind of go through the motions on, and we do it and we kind of zone out while we do it. You know, it's kind of like driving to your facility. You know the path from your home to there, you kind of just zone out. A lot of times these type of tasks can fall into that same bucket. But keeping track to make sure that you can see that it's been too long since you performed maintenance on a piece of equipment, and you might need to have that done sooner rather than later so it doesn't break down. But keeping track of those logs and everything else definitely helps in the long run, even though it may be a pain in the moment to keep track of. So for the next piece, let's go through some sales best practices. So for this, and this is where I want to spend a good amount of time on, because we all know, we're all tired of hearing about it, COVID, right? It's completely changed the way our industries work. not just for being remote, not being able to be in facilities or be close to other people, but it's shut down tasting rooms, right? You can't have people come to you and get your product the way that you want to and share the experiences that you started your business for, to have people come and share the communication with other people, build relationships and everything else. That's a big part of a Cidery's brand, is being able to do that. During the time of COVID, it has became a vital sales channel. It's picking up, has picked up, will continue to, and we don't see it going anywhere in the long term. So my question to you all that are watching is, if you don't mind, jump into the chat and kind of share some of the different platforms that you're using for your solution, for your e-commerce channel, if you're doing e-commerce. For those of you that haven't jumped into that pool yet, what's holding you back? What are the things that you look at and you're like, I really want to do that because it's going to be a lot of effort. I'll need a lot of help with it, whatever it may be. My question to you all is what are you using? And then on the flip side, and what I really want to dig into is, it's not about just having the platform, it's about getting customers to that platform. So I have some coming in. So we have Square, but transitioning to Arrived. So we see this a lot. So Arrived is one of our partners that we integrate with. They provide a great solution for taproom, usability, ease of use. And then they provide also an e-commerce online option for like pickups. So this is one thing that I like to harp on a lot. My team here is tired of me hearing about it, as well as some of our partners. But the option to have people to order your product online and just swing by the facility and pick it up is huge. People miss even more now than ever that communication piece, right? They want to be able to be in touch with your brand, with the people. You are what makes the business. So even if someone's just swinging by and picking up a product, that's a good opportunity for you to be able to greet them, socially distance, obviously mask, all that fun stuff, but being able to just say, hey, really appreciate you coming by. If you give them a little sticker or something else to keep remembering you by, that pickup piece is key. So it's good to make sure that your platform that you're using can handle that. Real quick, let me go through these other options. Man, y'all are on it. This is great. Let me see. Veno Shipper for shipping, Square for non-alcohol related sales. Awesome. Veno Shipper and Square. That's great. Yes, e-commerce is the future. Completely agree with that. Square for local e-commerce, Veno Shipper. Thinking about Arrived. Yeah, this is great. A lot of options, a lot of options. So it's good to see that so many people have jumped into it. Shopify. Yes, this is great. One of the big things that, and I'm sure you all have experienced these challenges as you've got your e-commerce piece up and running, especially at the beginning of COVID. If you didn't already have it in place, it's, oh man, what are we going to do? We have to get this up and running. From what we've seen from our customers and other people in the industry, March and April of last year were huge online sales months. Everyone was rushing online. Everyone's wanting to get a case or 5 of your product to be able to have at home because they're not going to be able to go anywhere and they have the kids at home, right? So they got to be able to do something. So we've seen this huge uptick in these sales for e-commerce platforms. And then the rest of the year, for some people, they kind of trickled down. They died off for the rest of the year. Still had some people coming in, but then just not as much as were previously. For other customers we've seen have been really successful, and that's by utilizing your social marketing channels. I say this all the time, I'll continue to say it. Having the right platform set up for your customer interface, for picking up products or for shipping or anything else, if you're allowed to do that, it's great. But if you're not pushing people to that website, then it's not really doing anything. It's kind of like a brick. It's just sitting there not doing anything. You have to be leveraging your social media, your email for your campaign members or anything else, to remind them constantly that you have this option available and to purchase from you. If you're not doing it, your competitors in your area or other people are. They are pushing that product. They're going to be top of mind for the people that are scrolling on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, whatever it is. If you're in people's faces all the time on a consistent basis, saying that you are here, we have product available for you, here's a special release, here's one of our core products, people are more apt to buy from you because you're going to be top of mind for them. So if you're not doing it now and you're not really leveraging social media, I see some of you in the chat saying you do that, please, please, please do it. You know, regardless of what you're doing, even if you don't have e-commerce set up, if you have a way to be able to do pickups and people just drive up and you have a tent set up and you're able to get things from people as it starts to get warmer, please push people to your website and to your facility. Because the great thing is anything that we can sell online for pickups, for even deliveries, if you're able to do that in your state and you're able to actually take that directly to the person buying it, let's keep those margins up. Let's keep those in a good place to where we're holding on to more of that money instead of losing some of it in other ways. So again, Venmo, Shipper, Square, great options. It's encouraging to see so many of you using these different tools to do it. All great solutions. Again, push the social media, push people to your website and to those pieces to get them buying from you. Again, it's my encouragement too for as we, you know, there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel with COVID, right? So we're getting to a point where the vaccinations are rolling out and everything else. We're going to come out of this, but I encourage you to try to figure out in your business and your business plan how to make e-commerce a bigger part of your business and to keep that. We all want people back with us and in person, but figure out how you can make this sales channel really work for you so that those margins, we're keeping them high. Let's keep those margins high. Let's get that money in the door and keep the business running. So if you have any questions about getting up and running, feel free to go ahead and throw them in the Q&A section or even the chat, and we'll go through those. But again, it's encouraging to see so many of you doing this. I see Amelia, Instagram, Facebook, and have also used Google Business Post. I will say, this is going to be a tangent for a second, but the call out on the business post is awesome, because what I've seen a lot of brands do, a lot of your brands and a lot of other brands in the industry from wineries and cideries, breweries and distilleries, is putting those posts up on the Google My Business things. Those are great because as soon as someone Googles your name, your company's name, your cidery's name, they're going to see that business post. So we have seen some people leveraging that Google Business post to push people to their online stores, or to say, these are the things that we're doing. We're open this time of day if you're able to be open, if you have food or whatever else. But I think that's great. I would recommend people go on Google, update your account, do that business post. So when people Google your name, your cidery, that people see that information so you can push people in the direction that you want them to go in. Let's see. And Kirk has a question. I will bring it to the group, and then if anyone has any help for him, please jump in the chat and help him out. The question is, for traditional e-commerce from a brand website, has anyone built their e-commerce on a traditional WordPress WooCommerce website? If so, did you run into complications with compliance? So we do see this some for in-state as well as cross-state lines, obviously. But that's my recommendation for pushing your product online and then going through shipping. Obviously, you need to make sure that your state allows that shipping component. But then I would really encourage you to look at things like Venmo Shipper. I know it helps with that. We have a partner that they work with some cideries, but mainly breweries. They're called Craft Peak, and what they help do is set up websites and brands that also match the e-commerce side of things, and they're able to help with online sales as well as clubs. So if any of you are doing clubs, I would love to hear from you in the chat. That would be great. We see this as, we all know wine clubs are huge. That's how they get a lot of their revenue. We see that trickling into cideries as well as breweries as well. If you haven't looked down that route, on the club route, I really encourage you to do so. See if there's some special batches you can give up for your rabid fans, and then the only way they can get it is to a club. Managing that is a beast on its own, but it's a great sales channel for people, especially if your brand recognition is strong and they want to get more product from you. And I believe Venmo Shipper has things like that as well. Let's see, getting a couple questions. Yeah, this is awesome. Keep the questions coming, guys. I would much prefer this to be interactive instead of me just talking at the screen. So yeah, Venmo Shipper works great for compliance. Can we tell from your data how much more sales a cidery, brewery, or winery effectively uses social media that don't? So I will say this, from the ones that we have seen that have successfully leveraged social media to push their products, to get people to go to their online stores, again, for pickup, deliveries, whatever it may be, we saw those companies grow in 2020. And I don't mean grow by like 5%. I mean grow by 40, 50, 60% year over year, just by properly managing their social media exposure and pushing people to their online stores. I know it was a rough year for a lot of people last year. I mean, us included. I mean, everyone took a hit in 2020. But some of these companies that we work with that are pushing things out and leveraging social media to push to the stores, they saw great growth last year. And so I encourage you, even if you don't see the returns right away, if you're just going to start jumping into it, don't do it a day or two and expect, oh, we're going to have a ton of money coming in. You got to be consistent with it. So if there's some people in your area to work with on social media or anything else, if you need any recommendations, feel free to reach out and we can point you in the right direction. But again, leverage that social media, be consistent with it, push people to your site so that you can see some of that growth as well, because it's not minimal. It's a pretty big jump in the growth that you can see. And again, we think it's going to be around, it's going to continue to be a big part of the business even after people can come back to the tasting room. And so with that, I know I rambled a little bit. Hopefully you got some little nugget that was valuable out of that. But I'll keep going and I can come back to some questions in a little bit. One thing is making sure you're managing your sales orders and invoices. So this is just a process thing, right? So keeping track of your incoming sales and your outgoing invoices to make sure that you know when people have paid you, but then also that you're making sure you actually know you have the inventory to be able to fulfill that order. So that's one of the things that we recommend is, we talk about the spreadsheets. You can keep track of that information on the spreadsheets. You can see on your right, 10 to 20% more sales opportunities by keeping track of the sales in Ekos as opposed to spreadsheets. The reason for that is you're not going to oversell anything, but you're also not going to miss anything. Your salespeople will be reminded if they're able to go on site and directly interact with someone if you are in the self-distribution state. To be able to know what products you have on hand, and you've actually be able to meet those orders and fulfill those. So it's good to keep track of that incoming, outgoing, and then again with the inventory pieces, making sure that you have enough inventory to actually fulfill those orders. And the good benefit too of keeping track of your sales in a system, even if it's QuickBooks or if it's Ekos or whatever, is knowing the purchase history. When is the last time they purchased from us? How many kegs do they have, if any? What's their preference? Is it whenever we do bottling? Is it canning? Is it kegs? Is it draft sales? But keeping track of that history allows you to go back and analyze trends so that you know, based on who you're talking to and who you're selling to, what products they prefer, what their recommendations are. So this is one big thing. Some of you were referencing Commerce 7 for your point of sale and your e-commerce. Some of you mentioned Arrived and Square. So for us, as we grow our product solution, having this information talk to each other is key. The reason is kind of a couple different ways. One is inventory. So making sure that anything that's sold online that's synced into Ekos, that inventory is deducted and we know what sales channel it went through. The next thing is making sure that that information is consistent and it gets cleaned up before it hits your books. Accounting, to all the CPAs, accountants on here, I'm sorry if I offend you, but numbers, woof. It's the least favorite part of my job is going through budgeting in that process. But I know as a business owner, I want to make sure that I have clean information going to my books so I can make accurate decisions on it. So the way that we work is that information comes in, what's sold through these different channels, if it is the club, if it is online sales, if it's in the tasting room, if you're open, and making sure we're keeping track of that information as it comes across. So a lot of you are going down this path of you have some of these solutions set up and you have some other ones set up. That's fantastic. Make sure that you're keeping the information consistent and synced between them so that you're not missing anything and you're getting the insights that you need out of it. Accounting best practices, like I said, the numbers, woof. But let's get into it. What are some best practices? The first thing is building the right team. So if you're like me and budgeting, numbers, all that stuff is not your cup of tea, make sure you have someone on your team that is their cup of tea. Some people live for this stuff. So make sure you have either an in-house accountant, an external CPA, or a part-time CFO controller. What's great about our industry, and this is one of the things that's always fascinated me, is there are so many accountants and CPAs that specialize in cideries, breweries, wineries, distilleries, and alcoholic beverage, and the information that you need to be looking at to be able to grow the business and things like that. It's easy to find someone to be able to partner with to help you with that. You can outsource it. You can pay them by the hour. They can do a couple of hours a month to be able to help you get the insights that you need and be able to keep track of everything for audits and all that fun stuff. But make sure you have someone on your team, if it's not you, that loves this stuff and lives for it and can help you get the insights and the information that you need. This goes to that second bullet point. It is a crucial part of your business, and it has to be left to the experts. I know for myself, I know enough to be dangerous, but then I get into some things, I'm like, I don't know if that's right. I have to have someone to lean on to be able to ask the questions and make sure that I am looking at the data the right way and all the things the right way. So make sure you're picking a good finance team to either have internal or outsourced. And again, if you need any recommendations on those, more than happy to point you in some people's directions. So the next is tax reporting. This is the worst thing right up there with the numbers. For your information, you need to make sure if you're using a solution like ours, make sure you're syncing with your accounting software. That alone can save about 20 hours a month, which equates to about $10,000 in savings, depending on who you're working with, depending on what the hourly rate is for your outsourced accountant or CPA. So at the end of the day, keeping track of your inventory, your production, your sales, all that information will give you the information that you need to be able to have the correct numbers on your books so that P&L, your balance sheet, and everything else looks okay, as well as being able to generate your TTB and excise tax reports. It's no fun. And again, having the right information in a consistent place instead of having to go to this spreadsheet, this spreadsheet, this spreadsheet, this clipboard, or whatever else it may be to fill out that information. It just makes the process easier, and it saves you a lot of time, and time equals money in this case. So next, know your numbers. This is a big thing that we see is anytime that you go to a bank to want to fundraise or try to buy a new piece of equipment to be more efficient, hire some more people or anything else, you're going to have this information together. While you can go through and get it off your spreadsheets and pull it out of your books, the time savings alone by having all the information in one place is pretty crucial. So that way you can just walk into the bank and say, here's our most recent numbers. This is how we did last year. Here's how we're looking now. I need to get another piece of equipment. This is what it'll cost. I'm good for it. So making sure that you know yourself, even if it's not you that are good with the numbers, that you are good with getting that data together and working with someone else to be able to go to these lenders or whoever it may be to say, this is what I need and I'm good for it and this is the reason. So make sure you're comfortable with those key metrics and you keep track of them over time. So next, taking your cider to the next level, we've talked a lot about technology in terms of Ekos and e-commerce and things like that, which is great. You all are doing an awesome job, so keep it up. So you can do everything manually, but at the end of the day, it's going to take time. It's going to take your resources. It's going to take manpower. If you're not doing it, someone else is going to. So at the end of the day, my recommendation to you is just look for efficiencies in your day-to-day. What are the things that are eating up so much time that you don't want to do it? And the reason is because it's taking so much time. You would rather be focused on, and I get this a lot, I want to be in the tasting room. I want to be out in the market, spreading our brand, spreading our product, and sharing those experiences with people. I don't want to be sitting behind a computer. So my recommendation is anything you can do, be efficient in those processes, making sure that you're picking the right tech stack. If you are using technology like ours to be able to connect with these different pieces, to be able to grow. And then, like we talked about, the point of sale, inventory, e-commerce, accounting, all those are big things to make the right decisions on. Ask the right questions to make sure that you have made a good choice or the right choice to be able to help their business run better. So for us, we work with people all over the world. We have over 1,500 customers, over 15,000 users, and a wild variety of wineries, meaderies, cideries, breweries, other craft producers, all the way from kombucha and coffee to pasta. So, for us as a company, we can help you out and things you need help with, managing everything in one place like we've talked about, from your inventory updates, your production updates, sales, accounting. We can help bring all those underneath one roof, especially for all of you that are using Arrive, Commerce 7, Square. We can make that process easier and save you some time with that. So just as a plug for coming up, we're doing a couple of more in-depth sessions coming up for our Cider Business School series. So to register for this, make sure you go to goekos.com/events. This is happening March 8th through the 11th. 4 days of webinars focusing on operations, business management, inventory and production, sales and accounting, and sales and marketing, and accounting and finance. So each one of these pieces, it's going to be a lot more in depth than I did today. Hopefully, again, you got something useful out of this talk. But these sessions will allow you to get deeper and some more ways to run your business and more efficiently. So if you're interested, go to the website, make sure to sign up. And then going up next, I'm going to go back because, again, I don't want to see myself on the screen, as I already have myself up on the camera. But I've got a couple of questions. I'm going to go through the chat. More than happy to answer any questions that you all have. Forgive me for leaning over and look at my other screen to get some of these. Let's see. I got some questions too. Let me look at these real quick. Do we have Canadian tax reports? Great question, Michelle. So we have a couple of reports that Canadians can pull to get some of the information, but you'll be happy to know, Susan, as well, we actually had a meeting today talking about more international expansion and providing more of the reports, not just for Canada, but also Australia and New Zealand, because we have a lot of customers there. So that piece is key. We do it for the States. We've done it for a while. Kind of like I said earlier, when we first started, the main initiative was craft beer in the US, but that's expanded. And so now we're excited about offering more tools and options for our international customers to be able to pull those reports quickly, as opposed to having to pull this report, and then get the information together you need for your taxes. So that is on the roadmap. That is upcoming, and hopefully sooner rather than later. So good question there. Let me see if I have any other questions on here. Is there a business size and sales where you see a tipping point to really benefit from Ekos? That's a great question. So typically what we see is, and I'll kind of give the recipe for success is the way I see it. So we work with anyone in terms of revenue from 500,000 in revenue a year to 25 million. I mean, it's a wide variety. But I think if you have processes, and this is kind of my recommendation, if you have processes in place now that you're using, even if it is spreadsheets, even if it's clipboards, but you and your team have a regular cadence of, okay, we need to do this, and we need to put this information here, then we need to go here, and we need to do this, you would be a good fit. And I say that because at that point of your business and keeping track of all this information, it's kind of plug and play. So you go, hey, instead of putting this information on this spreadsheet or keeping track of this batch here, or keeping track of this, these batch stats for any logs on this clipboard or spreadsheet, you put it in Ekos. You switch the process to be, this is your main repository for that information. If your sales team is doing invoices out of Excel or a piece of paper or whatever else, or another tool, whatever it may be, you do that in Ekos. So that information syncs up and everything syncs together. So I think if you find yourself at the end of the day looking to get more insights into your business to be able to make better decisions, and you have good processes in place, typically we're a good fit. And then if you're doing all these pieces that are kind of on these webinars, if you're keeping track of all that information in Ekos, if the sales team's running well, if the production team's running well, and all that information is getting updated as it should be, then it's a great fit, because it's the time savings on your accounting, your tax reporting, and everything else is going to be huge for you, and it'll definitely free up some time. Nicole is on the website, and she is looking for the events. Nicole, we can get the information sent out to you all. It should be on the website, but if it's not, we'll check into that real quick. So we will have that up soon. Marketing is on my screen telling me it'll be there soon. So if it's not now, set a reminder for a couple of days, whenever it is. But those signups will be there, and we'll work with Michelle to get these sent out as well with some of the additional speakers that we're going to have. Because while it is going to be focused on Ekos, we're also going to have industry experts in these as well. So it's not just us. I know that, I can talk till I'm blue in the face, and other people from our team can talk as well. But it's also good to hear from experts in the industry as well. And so some of these people that we'll have on are going to be these experts in operations and accounting and things like that. So I have a question from Kurt. accounting and financial team, absolutely, we can help with that. That'd be great. Let's see, and just as a heads up too, the email is coming out with these, so you'll be able to have it soon. Let's see. Sorry, I'm going through these questions real quick. James, Chuck, excellent point. If you're not out in front of your customers and the decision makers on making sales, someone else will be. Where are those dollars going to go? They're going to go to you, or they're going to go to somewhere else. Just real quick. Yeah, I think there's some good information in here. So everyone, if you have any other questions, again, just to kind of recap, we'll be sending out the email as a recap with this, recorded as well, so you'll be able to go back to this and reference it. I hope you've got something beneficial out of this. Any recommendations or anything that we can give, we can do that. Reasons we know to focus on the cloud. What know when to focus. Curtis. Curtis, your question, can you clarify a little bit? Cloud deployment as opposed to running your software on a local server. So I'll speak to this a little bit in terms of generalities that we see in the industry. We get a lot of people that are using, a good example of this is QuickBooks for Desktop. A lot of people are just familiar with QuickBooks for Desktop, and they also used, they tried to use QuickBooks Online like 5-8 years ago, whenever it wasn't that great. They made a lot of updates since then. My take on it, and our take as a business, obviously, is it's great to have things in the cloud just because of real-time updates. If you have to have things locally installed on a server or on a computer, it becomes a hassle because you only have one person in on a time. You have to go sit down at that specific computer. So again, if you're at home at night and you think, oh, what's going on with this? Do we have this? Do we not have this? You're not, if things hosted back at the facility or anything else, you're not going to be able to get that information in real time. So in the cloud is great, security is good and everything else. So it's good to have everything up there. So my recommendation on any platform, not just us, is just have things in the cloud just for accessibility. And James, how to get your Cidery ready? James, yes, we do. So we have a checklist that kind of let you know what's good to do and how to get up and running for really any business. So cidery, brewery, winery. So if you have those questions, you can come to our website and submit a form, or even ask the sales team, and we can get you the information on, hey, this is what success looks like, what you're doing now, how it equates to what you need to be doing. We're more than happy to help with that. So with that, the questions have kind of trickled down and everything else. So again, I'll give you some time back in your day. I appreciate you joining us. We'll send out the email with the signups for these sessions to go a lot more in depth on a lot of these pieces. Again, to harp on the same point that I've been harping on, please set up your e-commerce, set up your clubs, everything else, push people to your site, keep those dollars coming in. We're going to get out of this COVID mess soon and return to somewhat normalcy, hopefully sooner rather than later. But my recommendation is to be prepared for it after that comes. So set yourself up to be a stronger business coming out of COVID than you were going into it. So everyone, I appreciate you joining us today. I appreciate the time. With that, I will stop sharing my screen and I'll say goodbye. So thanks everyone. Again, appreciate the time and we'll talk to you later. See ya.